this is Rubilyn taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in General Science, and today's presentation I am going to present my unit plan on constellations. Okay, let's start with the unit overview. So I entitled my unit plan all about my shining star. That is because this unit contains the detailed characteristics of stars in terms of its size, distance, brightness, color, and temperature, together with the principles of constellations. The curriculum links is K-12 Science Curriculum Guide, August 2016, and it is for grade 9 students. The approximate time needed is 16 hours, provided that I will be spending 4 hours per week. 16 hours because I have 4 learning competencies and each competencies are dedicated for 1 week. The unit foundation, the content standards, performance standard. So content would be constellations, and under that are characteristics of stars, arrangement of stars in a group, changing position of constellations during the night and at different times of the year. The learners demonstrate an understanding of the relationship between the visible constellations in the sky and Earth's position along its orbit is the content standards. Then the performance standard is the learners shall be able to discuss whether or not popular beliefs and practices with regard to constellations in astrology have scientific basis. Next would be the targeted curriculum learning competencies. So I have said a while ago, I have 4. The learners should be able to infer the characteristics of stars based on the characteristics of the sun. Second, infer that the arrangement of stars in a group does not change. And third, observe that the position of a constellation changes in the course of the night. And lastly, show which constellations may be observed at different times of the year using models. As our specific learning objectives, so I have 10 specific learning objectives. By the end of the unit, the student should have described the properties of star in terms of size, shape, brightness, structure, movement, and components. Contrasted and compared the stars with different celestial bodies. Number 3, discussed the function of the stars in the existence of life. Number 4, drawn and enumerated the different constellations with their month of appearance in the sky. 5th, explained the principles behind the grouping and lining of the stars. 6, performed drill and exercises on the properties of stars and the different constellations. 7, acknowledged the importance of the stars and the constellations. Conducted an interview about the beliefs on the appearance of certain constellations, relating it to scientific knowledge. 9, created a sense of interest looking at the stars during the night and forming images out of lining the stars. And lastly, related to the essence of the uniqueness of the star, giving importance of their own unique personality. So those are the specific learning objectives for this unit. Let us now proceed to the curriculum framing questions. So essential question would be, does everything in the sky that shines a star? Unit questions are, what are the characteristics for celestial bodies to be considered a star? And are all the imaginary lining of the stars considered a constellation? And we have also the 11 content questions. Is sun a star? So what is a star? Do stars really twinkle? What are the different stars and what are unique about that star? What is a constellation? Do the constellation changes in a certain period of time? What are the functions of a star and the importance of the constellation? What are the different constellations and the month or time of their appearance? Why do different constellations only appear at a certain month? Do constellations move from one location to another location? Why? And lastly, what are the beliefs about certain constellations? What can we infer about them? So those are the 11 content questions. Our assessment plan. So this is my assessment timeline. Before project work begins, students work on the projects and complete tasks. Then after project work is completed. So before project work begins, I will be doing diagnostic activity like we have the KWL chart, and I will be asking essential questions. Then students work on projects and complete tasks. During week 1, there will be oral recitation during the interactive lecture and reporting. The students will be grouped, then report a chosen star, its characteristics, discovery, and mechanism. Then week 2, oral recitation still during the interactive lecture and drill. So the students will be given an activity to accomplish. Week 3 will be the students will watch certain documentaries about stars and constellations as they answer the given questions to them. Then they will also formulate the questions for the next activity, which is interview. And week 4, that is I have said, would be interview. The students will be grouped and will be assigned to interview certain people belonging to different tribes about the beliefs that they have about constellations when they appear in a certain time. Then after project work is completed, week 1 would be a quiz. The students will have a quiz based on the interactive lecture and their classmates' report. Then week 2, essay. The students will make an essay pertaining to why constellations does not change. Then week 3, quiz again. So the students will have a quiz based on the documentary and why the constellations change. Then week 4, think, pair, share. The students will share to their classmates what they have learned. Next is we have the assessment summary. So this unit as part of the third quarter will aid students to achieve the performance standard for the quarter, hence the detailed tasks. So before that, the target exit skills for this unit will be communication skills, reporting skills, and analytical thinking skills. So the performance standard, the learners shall be able to discuss whether or not popular beliefs and practices with regard to constellations in astrology and scientific basis. With this, the students will act as researchers. So they will be grouped according to their tribe, and they are to interview 10 people within their tribe about their beliefs on constellations, then create an analytical report if their beliefs has scientific basis. So their report must include the beliefs in their own tribe on constellations and evidence to prove whatever their claim would be, and they are to present it in the class with mastery and confidence. For the rubric for the performance task would be content, clarity, and organization. So content would be the interviewed person are complete and there are at least 6 beliefs that are claimed that has either scientific basis or not, and the claim are supported with evidences accurately. Then clarity and organization is on their presentation on their report. So the presentation flows well and systematically. Presentation reflects extensive use of technology in a creative way. Each information is represented and identified by their names, and the presenter shows mastery and confidence of his or her presentation. So that would be the rubrics for the research. We have the unit details. So the prerequisite skills or knowledge in order for the students to comprehend with the lesson is that they must have a basic knowledge in galaxy, the structure, parts, characteristic, and function of the sun, and they are familiar with the orbit, rotation, and the atmosphere of planet Earth. Okay, so instructional procedures or teaching learning activities. So week 1, I will be focusing on the characteristics of stars, whereas the performance task for the unit will be introduced to the students together with the rubrics. The students will be briefed on the different tasks that they will be completing throughout the lesson. So the motivation would be the students will do the KWL chart, and the essential questions, does everything in the sky that shines a star? Processing questions will be, have you ever looked up the sky at night time, and have you ever looked up the sky at night time and was awestruck? Why? Have you ever dreamed of becoming a star? What are you doing now to let that dream come true? Then purposeful integration will be, the students will appreciate the beauty brought upon by stars during nighttime. Then I will be stating now the objective. So the presentation will be focusing on the characteristics of the stars based on the characteristics of the sun, and I will be presenting it through an interactive lecture with slide presentation. So the key discussion questions will be, is sun a star? What is a star? And do stars really twinkle? Then during week 1, the students will do a reporting about the different stars, whereas the students will be able to understand that every star has also their own properties, that all the stars are not the same. So during week 1, the students will do a research and report about a certain star. They will be choosing what they want to research on. So the key discussion questions will be, what are the different stars and what is more unique about that star? Practice would be oral recitation. The students will be doing an oral recitation during the interactive lecture, and during the reporting, they asking questions. So reporting, the students will report on the different stars by group. Then summative, there will be quiz on the characteristics of stars, including the reports of their classmates. So purposeful closure will be, the students will make an acronym of the word star. Week 1. Week 2 will be on constellations. So the students will have a diagnostic activity on our previous lesson. Then the motivation will be, the students will do an activity pertaining to the lesson constellation. So the essential question, how do stars form constellations? So processing question, are all images performed by a star considered a constellation? Explain. Then I will be stating the objectives. So the presentation will be focusing on constellations. The presentation will be interactive lecture with the slide presentations. So essential is the idea that not all images formed by a star are considered as constellations, and these constellations does not change. So the key discussion questions would be, what is constellation? The constellation changes on a certain period. What are the functions of a star and the importance of a constellation? Oral recitation still during the interactive lecture and essay, whereas the students will explain the reason why constellations does not change and the essence of the stars and constellations. The purposeful closure on week 2 will be, the students will share their favorite constellation and the reason why it is so. Week 3, we have now the position of constellations. So the students will have an oral recitation of the previous lesson. Then the students will watch a video pertaining to constellations. The essential question would be, does constellations change course? So have you ever, the processing question, have you ever seen a constellation? Then they will be shaded. So the presentation in week 3 is an interactive lecture accompanied with slide presentation. So the key discussion questions would be, do the constellation changes in a certain period of time? Do constellations move from one location to another location? Why? So, and afterwards, the students will make a diagram of the constellation. So they are going to create, so the students will create a diagram showing the change in position of the constellations. So the essential will be, the principle of the constellation's position or location changes throughout the night must be emphasized. Practice would be oral recitation still during the interactive lecture and diagram activity. Then they're going to have quiz on the principles why constellations change position throughout the night. And then the purposeful closure for week 3 would be the students will make a hashtag relating to the lesson. Next, week 4, time of appearance of a certain constellations. So with this, the students will be asked to do a drill pertaining to the previous lesson. Then for motivation, the students will watch a video presentation with the essential questions. Do constellations appear at the sky at the same time? Then the key processing question, how many constellations do you see in a night? Have you ever saw a constellation appearing at a certain time? Then I'm now going to save the objective. So presentation is research and reporting. So the students will be grouped and go to the library to search data pertaining to the constellation they are assigned to. Also, the essential will be the idea that constellations are permanent schedule to appear. Then they are going to conduct an interview on the different belief of the people when a certain constellation appear. So the practice is research and reporting and quiz and interview. A purposeful closure will be the students will be asked to write down what they learned about the lesson. So that is the instructional materials for the whole week. So next is accommodations for differentiated instruction. So students with special needs is that I will do remedial sessions to accommodate them, and I will also assign a more knowledgeable other to help them or to assist them in times of certain activities. Then give the students activities that are of higher level are provided along with the other activities that will challenge their high IQ. Then ESL student, since English is a mode of teaching in science, the students are required to speak in English. However, if it becomes a hindrance already for the students to explain, then they may shift from other languages where they are comfortable. Resources required for the unit, of course, technology or hardware. We have computers, internet connection, printer, projection system, television, which will be used for my lecture, which will be used for the interactive lecture and for the research activity of the students and video presentation. The students, technology software, desktop publishing, image processing, internet web browser, multimedia, word processing. Then for the materials was the K-12 curriculum guide and the Earth Science book on constellations. Supplies will be none. Internet resources is found in sciencing.com. Thank you very much for your patience in listening to my unit plan.